Yo, buddy. Veteran X here, and today we're taking on the Master Challenge in Pokemon Black 2. The rules are fun and very straightforward. Basically, our team's final evolutions need to spell out the word Master based on the first letter of their name. And our journey begins with us choosing our starter. Nope, not this guy, Mareep. To get this Pokemon, we'll need to carefully travel to Flakesi Ranch while avoiding as many trainer battles as possible. And after capturing Mareep, we fight a couple of trainer battles and make quick work of the first gym leader, Sharon. Upon defeat, he gives us our first gym badge. Yes, sir. Shortly after receiving our first badge, we come across our second Pokemon, Venipede. I've never used Venipede before within a Pokemon playthrough, so it feels good to give this guy a chance. And after beating down some trainers and stealing their lunch money, we continue our journey and make our way to the Verdant Complex. While in the complex, we find another member to add to our team, Magby. I've never used the Magmar line ever in a Pokemon game, so this will be fun to finally play with this new Pokemon. We give our newest teammate the nickname of Blaze and head on over to the second gym. Roxy specializes in poison Pokemon, and after taking out her bandmates, she challenges us to a fight. Roxy opens up with a level 16 Coughing, and we respond in kind with Blaze the Magby. Blaze uses Ember, and we score a burn on Coughing. This is huge because Pokemon that have a burn will have a lower physical damage output. Now that's nice, especially since Magby can tank those physical attacks from Coughing and squeeze out a victory. Once Coughing is down, Roxy uses her ace Pokemon, Whirlipede. Now, it might seem like Magby has the advantage, but since it's poison, that means it'll take double damage from Venoshock, which is a disadvantage. So this seems like a great time to swap into Mareep. From there, we use Thunder Wave for paralysis checks, and then through the use of Charge and Thunder Shock, we're able to fry Roxy's last Pokemon into a crisp. Upon victory, Roxy awards us with the Gym Badge and the Technical Machine for Venoshock. None of my Pokemon can use it effectively for now, but I want you to keep Venoshock in your mind. Until that point, we need to head off to Castelia City. We're not here to sightsee though, and that's thanks to Team Plasma. Our journey within the city leads us to the sewers, in which we defeat more Team Plasma grunts and we meet Chorus for the first time. But as we leave the sewers, we step into a dust pile, and guess who we find? Drillbur. With our Drillbur in tow, I train up a little more and head on over to the Castelia City Gym to face off against Berg. He opens up with a level 22 Swadloon, and I respond with Blaze the Magby baby, who's at level 20 now. Blaze has a 4 times type advantage against Swadloon, and he makes easy work out of the grass/bug type Pokemon. Once Swadloon goes down, Berg elects to swap in Dwebble, so I decide to swap into Drillbur, who is woefully underleveled in this situation. But he stands tall, and through a back and forth of heals and attacks, he's able to deliver the finishing blow to Dwebble. Now, down to his last Pokemon, Berg sends in his ace, Levani, who's at level 24. And since I have a fire-type Pokemon, you already know that I send in Magby, but there's a problem. Magby is also underleveled by 3. I tried to go back and forth with my opponent's Pokemon, but Magby couldn't gain an edge, so eventually I switched into Mareep and used Thunder Wave. Mareep took one more attack before being KO'd, but not before I was able to safely heal Magby. Once he returned, he made quick work of Levani, and with that we earned our 3rd gym badge. Yeah, buddy. Also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my first channel member, Bright Soldier. What an awesome guy. And if you would like cool ass shout outs just like this one, then hit the link in the description to become a channel member and grow 3 inches taller instantly. We head back on the road once again while making some stops in the construction zone and the desert ruins. We're able to get Venipede to evolve, and we also got Mareep to evolve as well. Yes, sir. Afterwards, we make our way into Nimbasa City. After getting on some of the rides within the amusement park, it's time to face our 4th gym challenge against Alessa. This time around, I've been able to train up a little more efficiently, and I'm able to match her level 28 Emolga with my level 28 Magby. Now that thing hit me with the craziest attack, Volt Switch, and she swaps into Flaffy, who gets hit with the Confuse Ray that was meant for Emolga. Since Magby is already below 50% HP, I make the swap into Drillbur and I immediately use Dig. Alessa doesn't even bother swapping and Flaffy goes down for the count. Alessa then uses her ace, Zep Striker, and despite being paralyzed, Drillbur is able to get off another Dig attack and rack up a second KO. Her last Pokemon is Emolga, and I decide to swap in for Flaffy, who's 4 levels lower than Emolga. This isn't a problem as Flaffy tanks many of Emolga's attacks and is able to land the finishing blow on my opponent's Pokemon. With her last Pokemon down, we are then awarded with our 4th gym badge. So far, so good. With the shiny new badge in tow, it's now time to make preparations for Driftville City. Along the way, we're able to make some massive changes with our team. First of all, our precious Magby is finally able to evolve into Magbar. Now that's spicy. And our Venipede is able to evolve into Scolipede, and we're not done yet. While doing some exploring, we were lucky enough to come across Roselia and gave it Groot as a nickname. Now, we finally make it to Driftville City and then head on over to the gym to face off against our next opponent, Clay. This is another crazy battle, and Clay opens up with the level 31 Krokorok, and I respond with level 29 Roselia. Groot picks up a quick KO with Giga Drain, and then Clay brings in Sandslash. Unfortunately, Roselia had been hit with Torment from Krokorok, so I can't use Giga Drain twice in a row. So instead, I use Toxic Spikes. Sandslash hits back with a nasty Crush Claw, which drops Roselia below 50% HP. Not wanting to risk a KO from a critical hit, I swap into Scolipede. He tanks a couple of hits, and I'm able to get a 2x defense drop from Screech. Sadly, I misread Scolipede's tankiness, and Sandslash makes me pay for it big by KOing it with Rollout. But this battle is far from over, and I bring in Razor to clean up the mess Sandslash made. Once he was taken care of, Clay sends out his ace Pokemon, Escadrille. Now this is a showdown. It's the Pokemon version of David versus Goliath, and Escadrille opens up with Slash, which does an insane amount of damage. Drillbur taints it like a champ, and he prepares Dig by burrowing underground. The attack does a ton of damage, but it's not enough to take down Escadrille. I swap into Magmar, and thanks to his fire type advantage, we're able to defeat Escadrille with one shot to the face. Upon his defeat, Clay awards us with the 5th gym badge. We are on a roll. To continue our journey, we must cross paths with Team Plasma, and this occurs once we step foot onto their massive warship. On the ship, we encounter a series of battles, and through the power of friendship, Flaffy is able to finally evolve into Ampharos. After escaping the warship, we make our way towards Charstone Cave, and there are some pretty tough trainers here. This is the perfect place for getting our team balanced, and once we've had our fill, we head on over to Mistralton City to take on the 6th gym leader, Skyla. Since she specializes in flying Pokemon, I open up with Ampharos, but her Swoobat is much faster and he lands a Heart Stamp. But Amphy is able to shake off that CTE and KOs the Swoobat. He is able to KO Skyla's next Pokemon, which is Swanna. He's down to her last Pokemon, Skarmory, at this point. Can she squeeze out a victory here? Hell no, because I send in Magmar, and it's able to easily handle the job, despite being 4 levels below Skarmory. We get another victory here, and also our 6th gym badge. We are on fire. After leaving, we're able to make several upgrades to our team, and the first one comes from Drillbur finally evolving into Escadrille. Yes sir, he even learns one of the best setup moves in the game with Swords Dance. Now this is gonna pack a punch. Also, we're able to make Roselia evolve into Roserade through the use of a shiny stone. Yeah buddy, it's all coming together. With my team looking like this, I'm feeling pretty dang confident in challenging the 7th gym leader, Drayden, to a match. He starts the battle with Druddigon, and we bring in Escadrille, baby. I start setting up a Swords Dance, and some of my PvPers can probably see where I'm going with this. His Druddigon uses the world's most pitiful attempt at Slash, and I knock his ass out with a +2 boosted Earthquake. Drayden goes for Flygon next, so I swap in Roserade. I use Toxic Spikes, and Flygon is able to get in a couple of good shots. I heal up, and now I think I'm in a good spot, but out of nowhere, Flygon lands a critical hit from Crunch and absolutely deletes Roserade. I go for Extra Drill, and he's able to tank a few hits from Flygon, and after some Metal Claws, he's finally able to knock out the menace called Flygon. Drayden then brings in his secret weapon, Haxorus. It's looking kinda dicey, so I bring in Scolipede. Surprisingly, my Scolipede outspeeds Haxorus and lands Screech, which drops Haxorus' defense by 2 stages. Haxorus uses Dragon Dance, and now I'm starting to sweat. He's now able to use Slash, and Scolipede hangs on like a champ. We then respond with X-Scissor to KO's Drayden's last Pokemon. And with this victory, we've earned our 7th gym badge. After dealing with Team Plasma shenanigans, we make our way towards Humilao City to face off against the 8th gym leader, Marlin. And I'm not gonna lie, this match was an absolute slaughterfest. Ampharos was pretty much able to one-shot Marlin's entire team through Discharge, and he didn't stand a chance. Thanks to Amphy's clean sweep, we now have the 8th gym badge. Let's get it! After getting our 8th badge, there's some upgrades we need to make for the team. One of them was teaching Magmar Psychic, and up until this challenge, I had no idea that Magmar could even learn this attack. We were even able to go out and capture the 6th member of the team, Terrakion. Yes sir! We nicknamed him Rock Leaf for obvious reasons, and shout out to all my fellow Naruto fans out there. Next up, we board Team Plasma flying ship, and we find a very special item in there, the Magmarizer. Aw yeah! This means we can finally have Magmar evolve into Magmortar. I ride this wave as I fight through everything Team Plasma has to offer, and even facing off against their head honcho, Ghetsis. After defeating Ghetsis, it's time for the real challenges to begin with the Elite Four. Our first opponent is the fighting type guru, Marshall. He starts the battle with Throw, and I send in Terrakion. I get off with Swords Dance, and Rock Lee tanks some pot shots from Throw. After he's defeated, Marshall sends in Minxiao, and I'm thinking this will be an easy W. But no. Minxiao landed the meanest high jump kick ever, and it one-shots Terrakion like he was made of wet freaking paper. I send in Scolipede next, and guess what this thing does? It uses Bounce. I totally was not expecting that, so I swap in Amphy to take the hit. But then Minxiao paralyzes Ampharos. Oh my goodness, this Minxiao is a menace. I try to sneak in at least one attack with Ampharos, but this Kung Fu freak lands another high jump kick, which absolutely deletes Ampharos. Okay, things are looking kind of bad here. So I bring Magmortar in, and Minxiao lands another freaking high jump kick. The only difference is that Magmortar barely survives, and he's able to knock out Minxiao in one shot. Thank goodness. And the next Pokemon Marshall brings in is Conkeldurr. I go for Roserade, and I lay as many attacks on him as possible, but Conk was able to land a +1 Stone Edge on Roserade, and it didn't stand a chance. At this point, I'm down to my last 2 Pokemon, so I bring in Magmortar because I know he will definitely outspeed Conk and get Psychic off. My gamble paid off, and once Conkeldurr is down, Marshall swaps into Sulk. I get Psychic off once again, but it's not enough to knock him out, and Sulk picks up the KO on Magmortar. I bring in my last Pokemon, and finally, Scolipede was able to take out Sulk, and this gives us our first victory within the Elite Four. That was an insane match. After taking a quick breather, our next match is against the Psychic user, Caitlyn. She opens up with Musharna, and I use a Signal Beam from Ampharos to get things started. It did okayish damage, and she responds with Yawn. To avoid the sleep, I swap in Scolipede to use X-Scissor. Eventually, he goes to sleep as well. I know that Caitlyn will use a turn to heal, so I use this chance to swap into Excadrill, and I use Swords Dance plus Metal Claw combo to finish off the Musharna. And now that it's fully set up, Excadrill makes quick work out of Caitlyn's remaining Pokemon. They did not stand a chance, and with that we have another victory within the Elite Four. But there's not a moment to slow down, because our next opponent specializes in ghost types, Chantal. Our battle begins with Confragragus versus Roserade. I quickly set up some toxic spikes, and Confragragus responds with a super effective Psychic. It did some pretty decent damage, but I felt as though Groot could regain enough HP with Giga Drain to survive another attack. My gambit paid off as Groot tanks another Psychic and KOs the enemy Pokemon. Chantal brings in Chandelure while I swap into Ampharos. I open up with Power Gem and get some pretty good damage on top of the poison chip damage. I thought things were looking good until Chandelure used Fire Blast. It almost OHKOs Amphy, but he got burned from the attack. So the results of this fight ends up being a double knockout. Chantal brings out Drifblim and I use Scolipede. Looking back, I'm not sure why I did that because Drifblim absolutely destroys Scolipede with acrobatics. Damn, sorry my boy. I swap into Terrakion and he's able to make quick work out of the Drifblim. Chantal then uses Golurk and Roserade takes care of the giant ghost with a super effective Giga Drain. And since that was her last Pokemon, we rack up our next victory in the Elite Four. Our next opponent is the Dark-type user, Grimsley, and this fight was a piece of cake with Terrakion. I used Swords Dance and he was able to OHKO all of Grimsley's Pokemon thanks to his type advantage. And now that he's out of the way, it's time to face off against the Unova champion, Iris. The bout begins with Hydreigon versus Roserade. I open up with Toxic Spikes, but not before Hydreigon gets off a Flamethrower and a burn on Roserade. I swap into Terrakion, but he takes a mean Dragon Pulse to the face. I'm thinking Terrakion can OHKO here, so he uses Sacred Sword and Hydreigon barely manages to hang on. Hydreigon responds with Surf and takes out the first Pokemon. Iris uses a full restore and I use Thunder Wave in response from my Ampharos. Now that Amphy is faster, I'm able to chip away at Hydreigon's health until he's down for the count. It's time to get some fresh legs in the fight, and she brings in Aggron while it's time for Excadrill to join the battle. He one-shots Aggron with a 4x Earthquake. Now that's a lot of damage. Her next Pokemon is Druddigon, who misses a Focus Blast, and Excadrill KOs Druddigon with a couple of well-placed Earthquakes. Her next Pokemon is Haxorus, and he's trouble for Excadrill, and he barely survives a super effective Earthquake. I use a turn to heal Roserade, and once Excadrill is knocked out, that's when I bring in a fresh and rejuvenated Roserade to join the fight. But not before the worst happens. Haxorus uses Dragon Dance. This could be very bad because Haxorus could be prepared to sweep my entire team now. With everything pretty much riding on this, I use Venoshock and hope for the best. And guess what? Venoshock is able to do just enough damage so that Haxorus can be knocked out from the poison chip damage. Yes, sir. Remember earlier in the video when I mentioned Venoshock? Yeah, it basically defeated one of the champion's biggest threats to our team. Her next Pokemon is Lapras, and Roserade is able to pick up another quick KO thanks to some well-placed Giga Drains. She brings in her final Pokemon, Archeops, and I bring in Magmortar. I go for the Thunderbolt hoping that it can outspeed Archeops, but unfortunately it moves first and it OHKOs Magmortar with a Rock Slide. My last chance at defeating Archeops lies with Ampharos, and the craziest thing happens. Archeops misses both of his chances at Rock Slide. Ampharos steps up to the plate and delivers a home run with a super effective Thunderbolt. Iris is now out of Pokemon, and we are the champions. Yeah, buddy. They even threw a freaking parade for us. Now that's fancy. I had a lot of fun with this challenge, and check out this video on the screen if you want to hear me yap about one of my favorite Pokemon games, Pokemon Heart Gold. And click this other video if you want to hear me yap about one of the best Game of the Year contenders, Clair Obscur. And now, with all of that out of the way, get out there and let's go play some freaking video games.